Hey everyone, it's the Diplomat, and we are on part 51 of the Chris Watts Discovery read-through. This part will take us from page 1321 to 1409, and we will review some reports and evidence from when they visit Chris in jail and take his prints and swabs and such. We're also going to go through a little bit of legal information regarding the Wyndham Hill Association, which was filing a complaint against them for non-payment. And then we're going to wrap this up with some very informative but heartfelt and heartbreaking written statements, first by Frank Sr. and then by Sandy. So let's get right into it. Next we have Office of the District Attorney, Weld County, and this is report date on October 5th, 2018, regarding defendant Christopher Watts. On October 4th, 2018, an appointment was scheduled to execute the Rule 16 Court Order C-16C-18 in the instant case. I reported to the Weld County Detention Facility reception area at 1:50 p.m. Present was WCDA investigator Dan Boyle, Frederick Detective Dave Baumhover, Aaron Koenig, and Kaylee Henson from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and Public Defender's Office investigator Sylvia Martinez. We were escorted by WCSO Sergeant Hedinger to a pod in Unit 9 of the facility. Upon arrival, the defendant was present in the open area with two additional deputies. Ms. Martinez conversed in private with the defendant for approximately 5 minutes, and then the collections began. I first collected a Polaroid photograph. I then put on a new pair of latex gloves to collect buccal swabs. I opened the sealed package of swabs without touching the swabs, gave them to the defendant, and then instructed Ms. Martinez that the defendant would need to insert the swabs in his mouth and scrape the sides of his cheeks. The defendant complied. The process was repeated with a second set of swabs. Upon receipt of the swabs from the defendant, I placed each set in a divided cup container to allow for air drying. The container was placed on a table and was not disturbed during the pendency of the proceedings. I then proceeded to collect photographs of the defendant's hands. Of the photographs taken, 5 were out of focus. There were a total of 16 hand photographs taken. All photographs will be provided as attachments to this report. I then collected a 10-print card and requested the defendant be allowed to wash his hands. Once that was completed, I collected major case hand palm prints. I again requested the defendant be allowed to wash his hands. The collection of the defendant's footprints were completed by CBI personnel. While the CBI personnel were collecting the footprints, I began cleaning the table area where the prints were collected. After that was completed, I obtained a new pair of latex gloves and indicated to Miss Martinez that I was going to package the buccal swabs. I placed the first set of swabs, cotton end first, in a small envelope, broke the sticks, and closed the envelope. The same was done for the second set of swabs. Both envelopes were then sealed with evidence tape and placed in a white envelope. The remaining stick portions were then placed in the same white envelope, and the envelope sealed with evidence tape. During the entire collection process, there was no conversation had with the defendant, other than for instructional purposes. The collection was completed, and the defendant was escorted out of the area. Investigator Boyle, Detective Baumhover, and I returned to the WCDA's office. I scanned the print card's Polaroid for discovery and packaged the documents in K-Pack, sealed and signed the package, and turned it over to Detective Baumhover. The scanned documents will be attached to this report for discovery. Realizing that I did not initial date the individual packages containing the buccal swabs while at the WCDF, I removed the individual sealed envelopes from the white envelope, dated and initialed the sealed packages, and placed them in a new envelope, along with the swab stick remains. That envelope was then sealed, dated, initialed, and turned over to Detective Baumhover. End of report. Kathy Holscher, investigator. And then on the following page, you can see all these different pictures of Chris's hands. You can see the blurred ones, has the front of his hands and arm and the backs. Also has some rulers there so you can see the length of his hands. And then there is a pretty sad looking Polaroid here on the following page taken by Holscher. It almost makes it look very old. It's of Chris with full beard sitting at a round table in the common area that has chess and checkers and backgammon type of games on it. Next is the fingerprints. So there's all the fingerprints that were taken from that visit are shown here. Each finger and set of fingers. That goes on to the next page, and you have an entire hand print. A few more of those, and then we get down to another document from the District Attorney, Weld County. This is October 4th, and this is just request for copy of court file. Please consider this a request for a copy of the court file. Reference the above case number. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me, Kathy Holscher. So the following number of pages, we're actually not going to read these front to back, because this is basically a lot of legal documents and it almost looks like bylaws for the Wyndham Hill Master Association. So this is the association for where they lived, and it begins with a summons, and it lists the date as August 24th, and it basically is summoning them to court for non-payment, and obviously things were not going to be getting paid to the association after everything happened. So the summons is followed by a complaint that lists a dollar figure of $1,533. And then what follows that is, it looks like a bylaws. Basically, it's all the different rules and policies that are related to living in the Wyndham Hill. So it talks about if you make improvements to your house, and defines different terms and describes how everything works with the association. So we'll skip that. But the idea here is that they're being taken to court by the Wyndham Association, and then what happens is a request is made to give more time because of everything that happened. So basically it reads on one of the pages, counsel for plaintiff is requesting this be continued to allow plaintiff more time to determine how they would like to proceed in this matter due to other pending legal proceedings against defendant Christopher Watts. So the next page here are basically is a description of a telephone call for Frank Rzucek Sr. Taking over as personal representative of Shanann to deal with her legal aspects. So it just says, court will appoint Frank Rzucek Sr. as personal representative of the estate. Court to enter written order of appointment, certified letters to issue. Court vacates non-appearance hearing of October 10th. Copies of orders and certified letters to be sent by mail. Matter adjourned. So that was just, again, turning over, power of attorney or, representative to Frank Rzucek Sr. so that he can help deal with the legal aspects of what was going on with the association. So here is just a form that Frank Sr. had to fill out. I mean, it's devastating to think of, 2 months later, you have to start doing these types of things. This isn't usually talked about, but you're trying to mourn your daughter and grandkids' death, and then here you are having to fill out, legal forms and do all these things. I imagine to a degree may be healthy in a way to just help you get through things and focus on something, but God bless them for having to do all this. So it just lists deceased here, and talks about Frank Rzucek Sr. becoming the petitioner. So we'll just continue down. If you want to come back and read these, please be my guest. But again, it's just these forms that are filled out for legal reasons. And you can see here, there's a notice of hearing. So matter scheduled for telephone hearing, which is what we just read, on October 4th. And it would address the petitioner's motion filed on September 27th. So actually he was doing it starting in September. And so that was to turn over all of the matters to Frank Rzucek Sr. Just going down, we have on 1392 a supplemental that was generated for creating tag numbers for CDs given to DA investigator Kathy Holscher. We then have a quick report regarding Brad and Zach. So it just reads, in reference to Supplemental Report 63, I would like to add the following pertaining to that report. The email I received from Flatiron's HD Ultrasound Clinic was from a Zach. The original email that was sent from Zach has been attached, and his contact information has been added to this report. And then in reference to Supplemental 68, the tow driver is identified as Brad, unknown date of birth. His contact information has been added to this supplemental. Brad took the vehicle to 245 Oak Street to secure impound and held it there for us. Again, the vehicle was secured with evidence tape, and I did not see anyone enter the vehicle, and the vehicle was secure. Nothing further, Sergeant Manley. Next, Supplemental 83, Baumhover, dated October 4th at 5:27 p.m. The following information was documented at the time it was gathered. The date of this report is not indicative of when the investigation occurred. On October 4th, 2018, at approximately 1:30 p.m., I arrived at the Weld County North Jail Complex to witness the Rule 16 collection process of Defendant Watts and take custody of evidence produced as a result of that process. Also present for the collection process were Kathy Holscher and Dan Boyle from the DA's office, Aaron Koenig and Kaylee Henson from the CBI Forensic Laboratory, and several deputies from the Weld County Sheriff's Office. Representing Watts was Public Defender Office Investigator Sylvia Martinez. I documented occurrences by approximate time throughout the process, and they are as follows. So at 2:05, the group described above were present in Pod 9 with Watts. At 2:11 p.m., a Polaroid of Watts was taken. 2:13, a buccal swab sample was obtained. At 2:17, photos of Watts' hands were obtained. At 2:18, right hand fingerprints. At 2:19, left hand fingerprints. 2:20, Watts washed and dried his hands. 2:22 to 2:25, right hand impressions were obtained. 2:26 to 2:27, left hand impressions were obtained. Then at 2:27, Watts washed and dried his hands. 2:30 to 2:34, right foot impressions. 2:34 to 2:39, left foot impressions. And 2:40, Watts washed his feet. Subsequent to the process, I took custody of the evidence collected and transferred it to the FPD. Upon my arrival, I booked the 3 items into FEPD Evidence Locker Number 8. These items will be transferred to the CBI Forensic Laboratory at a later date. Nothing further, Detective Baumhover. And then there's just notes on the next page describing what we just read. And then following that, we just have an evidence transfer form. It just lists the foot impressions of Chris Watts. The following supplemental is 84, Baumhover. This is on October 7th. On October 2nd, 2018, I received via fax from Sandy and Frank Rzucek typed statements generated by both Frank and Sandy. The first page was a typed statement from Frank which described his perception of how Watts was acting differently during June 21st through June 26th. Sandy's typed statement followed and is a 10-page letter addressed to me. It describes how Shanann and Chris Watts met in 2009 and a broad overview of their relationship over a 9-year period. The statement also describes some dynamics between Shanann's and Chris Watts' families. I scanned both written statements into the digital case file and retained the original copies for the physical case file. I also requested a written statement from Sandy regarding the phone conversations she had with Watts on August 13th, 2018. That statement is pending, nothing further. Okay, the following is from Frank Sr. Attention Dave Baumhover. And then it says, referring to June 21st through June 26th. I noticed Chris was acting different with the girls. He was yelling at them and raising his voice with them, which made me look at him like, what are you doing? Also, when Shanann would FaceTime him, which she did every day while she was here on vacation, she would ask him if he was going to pay attention to the girls. He was looking like he was looking at something else. When he came here for the last week of vacation, the girls would not go to him. They would go to Mommy, and he didn't like that at all. The look on his face like he was mad at them. I went to the beach with them for the first 3 days, and Celeste would say, "That's my truck," talking about Papa's truck. He said that I have a truck too, and she said, "But that's my truck," talking about Papa's. The first night he was strange. He came out and lay on the floor in the living room where I was sleeping on the couch. I was watching TV, and when I shut the TV off, he sat up and I said, "What are you doing?" He said he had a backache and it would help him. That was strange to me for him to lay on the floor. Thinking about it, he was acting kind of distant because the girls wanted me more than him. Looked like he didn't care, his mind was somewhere. Frank Rzucek. Next is attention Dave Baumhover. This is from Sandy. In 2009, Shanann built her house in Charlotte, North Carolina, battling her lupus. Her friend told her about her cousin, Chris, saying he is a very nice guy, quiet, etc. So Shanann got a request from him on Facebook. Months later, she called me, saying, "Mom, I met a nice guy. He is a mechanic." I said, "As long as you're happy and he is good to you." A few months after that, Shanann and Chris had a family gathering, and Frank, I, and his parents had a cookout. They were floored when they saw her house. Shanann was a hard worker and wanted this to eventually sell and make a profit to keep doing so, eventually be mortgage-free. Comes from a family of contractors. So Shanann was eager to please his parents, waiting on them hand and foot. When Shanann left the back porch and it was just me and Chris's mom, she leaned over to me and said, "Shanann was married before?" I said, "Yes, just like your daughter was." Then a while later, again, when we were alone, and she said, "I just don't see it." I said, "What?" She said, "I don't feel or see that your daughter loves my son." I knew she was going to be a thorn in the marriage, because my mother-in-law was the same way. So every time we had a cookout, his mom and sister were very quiet and distant. We weren't accepted. They made that known. So forward to engagement party, Shanann and I shopped for food, wine, etc. Spent a lot. Jamie, Chris's sister, wanted all the invitations so she could help. So Shanann told me, "Mom, Jamie wants to help. Send the invitations. Send off the invitations. What do you think? She's accepting me. I'm going to let her do it." So this mom and sister prepped food and cross-contaminated everything. So Shanann couldn't eat any of it. Gluten-free, nothing. Everything was made with gluten. So thank God I made lots of food I brought, at least my daughter could eat. So as the night went on, Shanann and I went into the bathroom, and Shanann told me, "Mom, I had like 80 invites and only immediate family came." So Shanann called people the next day to learn that they never received an invitation. Shanann was devastated. Shanann and Chris were upset, so they knew not to ask again. Then came the wedding. No one from his whole family came, just his grandmother and uncle. No mom, dad, sister, aunts, and cousins. No one came. Chris spoiled Shanann, and vice versa. They were so in love. They were a great team. They moved to Colorado and lived with Shanann's friend for 1 year, while they were building their house. Everything was great. Shanann saw something on Chris's private parts that didn't look normal. They went to the doctors, in quotes, cancer, so it was removed. She saved his life. Then Shanann got pregnant with Bella Marie. Everyone was so excited and happy. Shanann and Chris were wonderful parents. Chris and Shanann were working at the Ford dealership in Longmont. Shanann was selling cars. Chris was the head mechanic, a great team. Shanann was top sales. Then Bella came, so Shanann stopped working because of a high-risk pregnancy. She was a trooper through the whole thing. Both families seemed happy. Chris's sister never flew to Colorado at any time they were out there. Cindy and Ronnie came 2 times a year. Shanann worked at Children's Hospital at nights and also sold 31, in quotes, bags, travel bags, on the side. Everything was good. Shanann got pregnant with Celeste, and pregnancy was really rough on Shanann with her lupus. Very high-risk pregnancy again, but only this one was worse for Shanann. Water weight gain, severe back pain, shortness of breath, pains in her chest, fatigue, exhaustion. My husband and I sold everything but our house and moved out to live with them, to help our daughter in every way we could. Frank and I had to work to pay our bills too. We were there for 15 months. Chris's mom came out to watch the girls for a few days, while Shanann and Chris went on a business trip with Lavelle, her company, 4 nights and 5 days. During that time, we weren't allowed to see our grandchildren or even eat dinner with them as soon as we got home. She brought them upstairs and stayed upstairs. She wouldn't let us hold them or anything. I found that very odd. One day I asked her why. She said, "What the hell am I here for then?" She screamed in my face and in front of my granddaughters and said that I was very controlling. I was just like, wow. I texted Shanann over and over again, and she said, "Relax, Mom. I'll take care of it when we get home." It was ridiculous. I never spoke to Chris's mom again. I had enough. After 15 months, I moved back home. It was hard to leave, but I felt it was for the best. I have been home now. 17 months later, my whole family is dead. My beautiful daughter and beautiful grandchildren, all dead. Everything seemed fine. Our daughter never spoke about anything bad. She did speak to us about bankruptcy, a lot of debt, with all the medical bills. Bella and Celeste were back and forth to doctors, misdiagnosed for 2 years. I told Shanann that they had asthma and that she needed to fire those doctors. One day she went in and the PA was there and she diagnosed them with asthma. Finally, the girls were doing great, other than earplugs put in and girls being very allergic to tree nuts, which would have caused them death. Celeste was born with her esophagus too small. They went in 3 times to enlarge it. Steroids like crazy to help her breathe for 1.5 years or longer. All until they were diagnosed with asthma, then Shanann with her neck surgery, which out of pockets $25,000 they owed. So that's why there was so much debt. I noticed that when we would FaceTime every night for 4 years straight, looking back starting late May 2018, when we FaceTimed, Chris was putting the phone all over the room, ceiling, floor, etc. I said, "Chris, are you all right?" Then he would FaceTime normally. Before Shanann came to North Carolina, Celeste had a rash in her private area, and she went to get a face cloth and some cream. Chris had the phone. I said, "Chris, let me see how bad it is," being that I am an aide. So I still couldn't see. So I said, "Wait, let me move my screen," because I couldn't see. He put it right on her privates. Oh, I was so mad. Shanann wanted to come for 6 weeks this summer so she could introduce the girls to Chris's sister Jamie, who never met Celeste or Uncle Frankie, our son. Before the year started, back to school, dance, classes, etc. It was the best time was now. We were thrilled. Shanann stayed the week here, then weekends with Chris's parents. The first weekend was great with Chris's dad and family. However, the following weekend was a different story. Saturday was rough for Shanann. She was protecting her children from peanuts in every form. Ice cream, a bowl of nuts, and open razor blades just laying around the house. Shanann called her father. "Come pick me up now, please." Shanann said Cindy was trying to give the kids ice cream with peanut chips in it. Shanann asked Cindy, "What kind of ice cream is that?" Cindy said, in quotes, "Oh, relax, it's just ice cream." Shanann said, "Please let me read the ingredients." Cindy told my daughter that she was scary. So the girls walked outside to play with Jamie, Aunt Chris's sister. So after Shanann got done explaining to Cindy how dangerous peanut allergy is to the girls, Cindy ignoring Shanann. Shanann went outside, Jamie walked in. So the girls walked back in, and as Shanann walked in the kitchen, noticed a large bowl of peanuts now sitting on the table. That wasn't there 2 minutes before. So Shanann called me and explained everything. She said, "Mom, I'm being double-teamed," and I said what she told me, everything. But when she told me about the razor blades, I said, "What?" She changed the subject really quick because my daughter knows I would have been there and caused a big scene. I love my family. Protection. I said, "Dad's on his way." She got home here and was beside herself. I was furious along with her. That someone that you trust would try to get a child sick or die feeding them peanuts? Razor blades. Shanann told 4 people this. Me, Frank, Sandra, and Nikki. She called Chris that night, and she was so upset Chris said he would handle it. So Shanann didn't ever go back again to see them. None of Chris's family came to Cece's birthday party, and Cindy sent Cece's package out to Colorado, which is still there in the box at their house. So Shanann and the girls and us had a wonderful time the rest of their trip, when Chris came here for his week here and Shanann 6 weeks here. Shanann picked him up at the airport with the girls. They were so excited to see their dad that they set off the alarm for running up to him. Chris spent the day with his parents, and Shanann dropped him off at the nursing home to see his grandma. Shanann and the girls came back here. Chris was acting really weird to Shanann. He didn't have time to speak to her, and then he was going to stay because we had a storm with no streetlights not working. Chris's dad brought him back here to our home. Shanann and Chris spoke on our back porch for a few hours about how he has been in the peanut stuff in his mom's house. Chris was distant to Shanann, okay with the girls and with us. Shanann was vomiting all night, and Chris didn't get up to see how it was. This was his wife. They left for Myrtle Beach, and Frank went with them for a couple of days. Being that it was our granddaughter's first time at the beach, Frank left them. I came a day and a half. The girls and I had a blast. Chris was very quiet, doing his own thing and ignoring Shanann. I said to my daughter, "Is everything okay?" She said, "Chris is Chris." So we were at the beach, and we went to dinner, and Chris drove Shanann and the girls. No room, so I drove behind them. I was doing 83 miles an hour to catch up with them, and texting Shanann, "Why is he driving like that? Tell him to slow down. I'm not in a race to go to dinner." At dinner, Chris left the table quite a few times, very silent. He was ignoring his kids and wife. Cece was being funny, and he walked away again. I left the next day. They came 2 days later. I asked Shanann to stay here with the girls. She said Chris has good insurance for the girls. They went back home to Colorado. I'm devastated. P.S. The only reason Chris got fit was because diabetes runs high in his family, and Shanann wanted him to live forever. Sandy Rzucek. I think these written statements say everything we need to know. I don't know if I knew that Frank and Sandy sold everything except their house and went out to live with them for 15 months to help with the pregnancy. My heart goes out to them. God bless you, Frank, and Sandy Rzucek, God bless your family and all you have gone through. Just know that we're here praying for you, and we lift you up. May you be blessed forever and ever. In loving memory of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. Have a great day.